Okay, welcome everybody to today's workshop, which is the mid-year stellar planning workshop from Eighth House Wisdom, and particularly talking about the art of soft living by the moon. Um, I'm Melissa Brisbane, also known as Melissa of Eighth House Wisdom. And I am an author, an intuitive, an astrologer, both natal, lunar, and business astrologer. I'm an integrative psychotherapist, and I'm a feminine energy and stellar planning expert. And when I say those two things, I mean I specialize in being able to help women understand the unique rhythm that we need to engage in order to experience outer success and inner peace. And when it comes to stellar planning, that's the application of that information to your real and practical life, guided by natural cycle tracking and the power of astrology, so that you can experience the things that you want to or were intending and have them feel the way that you want to. I think that's one of the major things that I help people do and accomplish. And this is something that I did when I used astrology and my own birth chart to transition from a long-term career working in educational administration and in clinics, um, to what I am doing now, which is being a full-time soulful entrepreneur that delivers this content because it was so life-changing to other women. This really feels like a personal mission for me, and I'm always excited to bring this information to everybody. So, Eighth House Wisdom has been doing these workshops since 2021. And here we are in 2024, which is an absolutely exciting year in astrology. And I just have to say, from a global perspective, what is happening in the world currently and what's happening in the stars currently, these are once in a lifetime aspects. I mean, we literally have a number of once in a lifetime aspects. And from the way that I look at the world, I really do believe that many of us have chosen to be alive here and to be incarnated at this time in order to experience what is happening and to make use of the energy that it brings. The reason that I am such a diehard astrology lover, on top of kind of being raised with it as a child, is I believe that it is one of the most useful, I call it spiritual or energetic technologies, to help you understand the quality of time. Now, as a trained psychotherapist, I love to talk about Scorpios do this and Geminis do this, like you would find in a magazine that reads a horoscope. But the true power of astrology is helping us to be able to understand the quality of time. How does it feel? What are the energy dynamics that are currently in play? And then using that information to inform us about what things we're going to do and what things would be more favored at any particular given time. So today's workshop is going to be helping us to think about what's happening here at the middle of 2021. We're a little bit beyond the halfway point. And also talking about personalized self-care and soft living by the moon. And when I talk about soft living, to me, soft living is the exact opposite of hustle and hustle culture. It doesn't mean that there isn't achievement or success, but it means that the ways in which we do this work better for our softer, more feminine energy. Of course, I do work with some men, but everybody has masculine and feminine energy. So this workshop is designed to appeal to those of us who are primarily in our feminine energy, or for those of us who either have experienced success or want to experience success, right? Which is a tangible thing. But we also want to feel good, right? Feel good, not feel burnt out. This is how we avoid burnout, getting there. So, what we're going to be covering today are some of the tenets of my strategy called stellar planning. We're going to be talking about the planetary days, which helps you to find the best days to do specific types of activities. We're going to be talking about the lunar cycles at large, right? To learn how to identify where the moon is being activated and what part of your natal chart or business chart and what that means for you. In the middle, we're going to be digging into talking about natural and astrological cycles, so that I can help you with information that's going to help you get into cyclical flow and be able to immediately translate experiencing more softness while still achieving. We're going to talk about the retrogrades, not just Mercury retrograde, even though we happen to be in one right now, but every planet, with the exception of the sun and moon, goes retrograde. And we're going to be talking about what the implications of those are, because we are in retrograde season right now and how we can plan effectively for our lives. And last but not least, we'll be talking about the major aspects of 2024. And when I say aspects, that means the major planetary meetups. There are planetary meetups every day. The moon makes multiple aspects or touches on multiple planets every day, but I'm going to be talking about the major ones that are felt by the entire collective, to help us understand what we need to do, because this is a really transformational period. And as I said at the start of this video, we literally have two aspects happening this year at minimum that will never be experienced again in our lifetime, or probably that of our children's, because of how long these planets take to move. So for many of us, it's the reason why we're here. And so we want to know, how do we use them to our benefit? And then finally, at the end, I will be talking to you about a new course. It's a masterclass that I'm going to be releasing for the Virgo new moon that can help you extend working with a lot of these themes and processes. You do not have to stay for that portion, but I do want to make that known. So I'll give you all the free information before we get there. And then at the end, if you are interested in figuring out ways to work with me at a higher touch, or to get more in-depth information, then that will be what we'll cover. All righty. So now that we've gotten all the basics down, let's get into the content. So first up, we're going to start talking about planetary day. And I'm a big language lover, and the days literally have the roots of most of the names of the planets in some form of a Romance language in them. Here we have displayed each day of the week and its planetary ruler, as well as the stellar energy that the day provides and ideas and activities that are aligned with that. So today is Sunday. It's ruled by the sun. It's actually interesting how we exist in this Western world, because honestly, Sunday is a day for self, right? It's a day of rest. It's a day to do self-care. It can also be a day where you decide to go shine because that's what the sun does. It shines. Um, it's a day where we want to pack in things that we do that's just for us. But for many of us, since we work in a modern Western kind of schedule and culture, it actually tends to be the day where we're pretty busy trying to get ready for Monday to go back to work. Um, which also leads to another conundrum in my mind, in that Monday is the moon's day. And so so many people dread Mondays. They feel yucky, especially because on the day that they were supposed to be able to take care of themselves, um, without a lot of thought or consequence, they really had to get themselves ready to go back to work on Monday. And then when they get there, they're there, but their body doesn't always feel ready. Their mind doesn't feel ready. They don't always feel very well rested. And I think that also has a lot to do with the fact that Monday is ruled by the moon. I frequently call it moon day. So the stellar energy for Mondays is about having a slower start, continuing that self-care and leaning into your intuition, which in the most practical way that can be explained is listening to your body. That's what it looks like when we're being intuitive. And so looking at this diagram, you can begin to see Mars, it rules Tuesday. Mars is a planet of action. So actually, most of us feel like we're going to get ready to have a good start, or we're ready to kick it into high gear on Tuesday, right? That's when we want to work hard, and we feel more ready to take action because we've had a little period of acclimation, and we can be more brave or assertive. Wednesday is Mercury's day. And this day really favors communication, contract, negotiation, short distance travel. From a business perspective, this is a day to meet with your merchants. Mercury is in the root of merchants and all things of selling. It's the god or the energy that rules those things. So meeting with, setting business meetings to discuss or communicate ideas is favored on a Wednesday. Thursday is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter's energy is about expanding, traveling, and learning. So Thursdays are wonderful days for you to get into taking an online class, going to a physical class, planning travel, starting your travel. It's also a great time to do research, to tune into a passion project, which then leads us into Friday. Friday is Venus's day. It's about beauty, pleasure, and creativity. So, because Venus is about our receptivity, it is associated with money. Lots of people can call it the money planet. There are some deeper things in your chart that working with me can help identify in terms of what are really influencing your money-making potential and how you do that. But I want you to think of the goddess Venus as fun-loving, pleasure-seeking, and receiving of all things luxurious and wonderful. Therefore, it makes Fridays a wonderful day to do client work, attracting work, putting out things that are aesthetically pleasing, being creative, going into do art and culture that might inspire you so that you can come back and be more creative. And that rolls us into Saturday, which is Saturn's day. Normally we're like, woo, it's Friday, it's the weekend, we're so excited. and we want to go goof off and have fun and do a lot of things on Saturday. And of course, that's us working with the natural cycle that is set up by our society and the current 40-hour work week, if you're engaged in that. But Saturday, or Saturn's day, is really actually supposed to look more like what we do on Sunday when we're like, let's clean the house, or let's do all of the chores, let's take care of all of those things. Um, Aligning those tasks with that day will result in more success because the energy of the day is more in line with that, with being structured, with being disciplined, with planning, with creating support and structure that will help you to navigate the next week, which starts with going back to Sunday. So the key here is that the planetary days are a accessible and easily applied way of understanding the quality of time, the potential energy that a time is bringing, a day or a time is bringing, and then utilizing that to look at your calendar with different eyes. If there's not anything else that you get from this website, of this workshop, I want you to think about the calendar is a wonderful tool, right? Most of us, whether it's you have a digital or physical calendar, you use it to go, okay, I'm going to do this on this day and I'm going to do this on this day. But usually we are filling things into our calendar based on what space is open and available. And that may work well for masculine energy identifying humans because they are less receptive to energy around them and less impacted on a physical level, by the quality of time, the physical feeling of the quality of time. And that is because masculine energy is ruled by the sun. Sun comes up every day, goes down every day. We don't always have the same quality of sunlight, but we pretty much always have the sun every day, even if clouds are blocking it. Whereas feminine energy is ruled by the moon. You don't see the moon in the sky all the time. It's cyclical. The moon has 8 major phases. It has 2 large periods of time, where a feminine period and a masculine period. And since our bodies as women are cyclical and more aligned to this, looking at the quality of time is the missing piece that we have in planning and scheduling things. Understanding and aligning our actions with days that feel more aligned, better and more aligned with what we're being asked, is what can help us keep up with the productivity of our masculine counterparts without risking burnout. Because in order to keep up with their productivity, because they're always on, we have to push and always be on. But they can always be on because the sun is always rising and setting, right? Every day. The moon isn't always that way. And so if we understand that our energy flow is more lunar and cyclical in basis, then we can utilize things like this to come in and apply this wisdom to how we fit things into our calendar so that success feels good while achieving it. To note, there are also things such as planetary hours and planetary minutes. That's really getting deep down into things. That's stuff that I use when I make herbal potions, if you want things to be imbued with the energy of something. But at the most practical level, even if you are a professional versus a business owner who works for someone else, if you have any control over your ability to get work done throughout the week, then utilizing the information listed here can help you to organize your work week in such a way that you stay in flow with how the energy feels and are still able to get what's expected accomplished. So that's planetary days. And in your worksheet, I have a resource for you to, take a look at the aligned activities, take a look at what you have to do on a regular basis, and then utilize this to spitball some ideas that you think are in line with how you want to use planetary days as a guide for yourself. And I highly, highly recommend the use of this because it really is a game changer when it comes to thinking about and avoiding aspects of burnout, right? It also gives you something to go back and track when you are thinking about how a day has been going and whether or not you want to repeat that, right? Sometimes we have to look back at what's going on. I certainly do. I look back at my calendar, especially when I'm having more of a difficult time so that I can prevent myself from repeating that. So now let's get into part number 2, which is we'll be visiting in multiple places, but this is the next layer of applying the principles of stellar planning that really is a game changer for women. Whether you work for yourself or you work for someone else, it's working each month with the lunar cycles, since we've already established that women are lunar-based creatures. And so to start off, we just want to focus on the fact that when we're thinking about the lunar cycle, it runs every 28 to 29.5 days. And lunar months seem to happen more in the middle of calendar months. Why? Because the calendar is solar based. Masculine energy, it's solar based. It was created, our current calendar, the Gregorian calendar, it was created to line festivals up and to create a sense of homogeneity across multiple countries. And it also shifted our understanding of natural cycles because before the Gregorian calendar, which is why we have April Fools, we started our calendar during Aries season, which for me is my third and one of my favorite New Year's. It's astrological New Year. It, to me, is the actual New Year because it's the start of the spring season, right? Spring is renewal, and people think about New Year as renewal. But we also use January as that from our solar calendar because a lot of things in our current world stop and end there, right? But taking a look at the lunar cycles, we have 13 lunar months, not 12. And a lunar month starts with a new moon, which is the beginning of the masculine, yang, or active phase. It would be what we consider the flow portion of the lunar month, right? It's a powerful moment for setting intentions, acting on our desires. It's really a good time to start with goal achievement and developing interest and curiosity. That's a 2-week phase where the moon goes from complete darkness or 0% illumination of reflecting the light of the sun to 100% illumination, which is the full moon. When we get to the full moon, that is 14 days after this new moon event. And that is the start of a 14-day feminine yin passive energy phase, which we would call the ebb, right? It's the pulling back. This is an auspicious time to release, to surrender and let go, right? We want to look at our goal that we set 2 weeks ago. We want to look at the effort that we have put forth, and we want to shift canon from running behind that and putting a lot of physical active energy out there to doing internal work, right? We should have, or hopefully we have laid structure during the preceding 2-week period. And we now want to follow the moon's guidance by pulling back, resting, recovering, and allowing the energy and the momentum that we built up over the 2-week period to do its thing. And the full moon period is super important for us to understand as women, because just like the moon, right? This is the moon's on period of time when we get to full moon. But the 2 weeks following that are marked by the moon dimming in light. So for many of us as women, we hit that 2-week peak of the full moon, and while the moon is getting darker and our energy is waning, because we're in the waning phase, we don't know that. And so we're still pushing and still hard charging, like we're still in the flow state. And then when you come to the final week of the ebb phase or the final days, you're dead tired and almost in burnout. And that's because when it comes to that portion, we're not fully paying attention to and patterning ourselves after what the natural cycle is doing. So when I talk about working with the lunar cycles in the stellar planning protocol, we want to think about, as you can see, this cycle here, which starts with the new moon. And if you look at how the light is moving, right? This visual says everything. We start off in darkness. We grow a sliver of light and a waning, waxing crescent. We get to first half lit up for first quarter. We get to 3/4 of the way lit up, right? Then we get to a full moon. This is the peak. Once we get to this side, the natural cycles are urging us to pull back on our energy, pull back on our efforts, because the amount of illumination, the amount of light is dimming. And so, can you get her done? Absolutely. Will it cost you because you're utilizing energy you don't have? Absolutely. Having said that, we want to think about, how do we utilize our calendars to reflect this? So tracking the new and full moons and recognizing when the masculine yang phase starts and when the feminine yin phase starts is key. We want to set goals and take action for the first 2 weeks of the lunar month until the full moon. And then we want to intentionally rest, recover, and receive for the last 2 weeks until the next new moon, where we start the process all over again. This is an absolute key practice for avoiding burnout, because as a lunar, I am an extremely lunar type personality. Even my chart and human design indicates that. But women are all lunar types. And burnout comes from expending energy that you don't have, because intellectually you have the idea to complete it, but you're not checking below the neck to recognize that after a full moon, depending upon what cycle you were naturally synced in with, but even still, this has impact on the tide and everything. So it has impact on us, that you're tired. If I had $1 for every time around the last quarter moon, which is the last week before the new moon, so 7 days, I had $1 for every time a woman or one of my clients told me that they were dead ass tired during this period of time, and they questioned why. And I was like, well, I know. Let me tell you, I'd be a millionaire. So for me, it's about, well, if we know this, then why don't we integrate this into how we work? Because we all want to be successful and we all want to get things done, but we have to learn how to work with the quality of time and energy so that as a woman or a feminine energy identifying person who is in receptive mode, you don't burn out. Further applications of the lunar wisdom formula and lunar cycle planning involve getting more into astrological pieces. You could do the lunar cycle planning without knowing a thing about astrology. Just go get a gardening calendar, look at most calendars that have the new and full moon, and mark, this is my 2 weeks for working, this is my 2 weeks to be off. But to take it up a notch, the zodiac, this is a zodiac wheel that is indicating the houses. These signs over here are all the signs of the zodiac, starting from Aries going to Pisces. So a new moon happens in a different sign every month throughout the year. That's when it's going to be activating the particular theme, energy, and archetype of one of these houses. To work with the moon in a more advanced way, you want to think about what moon is it? Is it a Leo moon? Is it a Virgo moon? Is it a Cancer moon? And then what area of what house or what area in your chart is being activated. And then you can further refine or direct your energies or new start energy to wherever that's going to be activated in your chart. So for me, and for example, I'm a Gemini rising, so that means I would be starting here. The new moon that we recently had, which was a week ago on the 4th or 5th, well, I'm just wavering a little bit on that date, was a Leo new moon. For me, if Gemini is my rising sign, then 1, 1, 2, 3. That makes it that's Leo's sign. That would make it my 3rd house if we're starting with this line here and this sign here as my chart, which means I'd look at the number 3 and go, oh, okay, this is a new moon that's focusing on communications, day-to-day travel, intellect, thinking, blah, blah, blah. So that's why we're doing this right now, because it's about communication and media and getting things out. And that was just a week ago. And so tomorrow is the 1st quarter moon. So this is what aligned with my 1st quarter action for increasing levels of communication in my business and in my personal life and getting information out to people and doing it in a visible format. That's how I decided the date of this. It's also how I decided the date of when I'll be releasing my new moon masterclass, because the next new moon will be here in Virgo. And the energy of Virgo is about work and scheduling and health and wellness. And for me, it'll be my 4th house. I run a home-based business. So the idea of providing information to women, because the 4th house also rules that, about the moon, which the 4th house also rules that, to think about scheduling and how to get in better flow, are all being dictated for me by where a new beginning in my chart is going to happen, right? So that's what it looks like to apply that specifically. If you take a look here, which is also featured in your worksheet, I have here a list of all of the new and full moon themes, right? Aries is inspiration. Taurus is values. Gemini, communication. Cancer, intuition. Leo, creativity. Virgo, programming, mental programming, scheduling, all of those things. Libra, partnership. Scorpio, transformation. Sagittarius, expansion. Capricorn, your highest potential or your public image. Aquarius, innovation. And Pisces, imagination. If you understand what the themes of these energies are at the new moon, then you know that when a new moon in this sign is coming, you're going to get a new beginning in this area. And then if a full moon is coming in this sign, then you're going to have a completion or a release in those areas. This information further helps us understand and refine the quality of time so that we can better plan and get into better alignment. Because again, we are cyclical beings. So you can't just do the same thing all the time. You have to not only check in with what's going on with the natural cycles, but you also have to check in with what's going on below your neck. In your workbook, I have listed and provided this document, which gives you the date of the remaining new moons and full moons for the rest of the year. Yeah, the dates, if you're in the northern and western hemisphere, right? If you're in the southern or in the eastern hemisphere, these dates may vary. And I've also given you the sign and the degree for people who are more advanced in astrology and want to take a look not only at what sign it is, but by degree, if it's activating anything in your chart, or just want to begin to start digging in there. And so here you can list the house that's activated and generate some aligned activity. If you are in leadership or you are a business owner and you control your own timing, this is an absolute game changer because it lets you know when the energy has cleared enough or is most positive enough for you to take things. And once you know the archetype and the theme of a sign and you know your annual goals that you want to complete for the business, then instead of doing them according to the order that you wrote them down or at random, you can then pop in the ideas according to what's best aligned from a lunar perspective, and you can give yourself 2-week runways to really hit it hard, right? This also helps you avoid burnout because you're in a space where you're working cyclically. This ensures that you don't schedule yourself to be on all the time because that is not the most effective or appropriate way for women. That leads us to really just talking about the art of soft living, right? Natural cycles should be guiding not only our self-care, but what we do in schedule. Because women in modern times have really lost their connection with the moon, its cycles, and its phases, and the impact that it has on our life. That is why the work that I do with the moon is literally called the Lunar Wisdom Formula. And I have multiple lunar wisdom formulas for people to enact, which helps you reclaim the ancient knowledge and wisdom that we had about what's favored to do at what moon phase. And this ancient knowledge can help us in our modern lives because most people are overscheduled and overworked and underpaid and underappreciated. And a lot of that comes from the idea that go, go, go and effort, effort, effort is going to result in everything that you want. And the jury's still out on that. We've got a lot of women with thyroid problems. We've got a lot of women in burnout. We've got a lot of people who are quiet quitting. If you want to avoid doing that, then this information here is actually what takes you and puts you in that space, right? And Oops, and that didn't show up because I downloaded instead of using this as a live slide. But lunar-based self-care and living are key. Lunar-based self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health, guided by the phases of the moon, right? So is lunar living. It's pretty much scheduling and taking action according to your knowledge of the phases of the moon. Everyone can benefit from this, but women who are professionals, mid-season professionals who are managing a lot, women who are executives and C-suite executives and leaders who have to manage departments and teams, which is masculine energy, and they have to set the schedule and the vision for everyone else, they benefit from utilizing this. And if you're in your own business and you can control everything that goes on, you absolutely benefit from this, because one of the advantages of owning your own business is you own your time. That also should result in you being able to better arrange time in a way that fits you. So these next couple of slides, and the majority of it you guys have in sheets, in the worksheet, are just for us to kind of zoom in on what it means to address lunar cyclical wisdom. And I really want to focus this on how to utilize some of these phases for business and career. Again, the new moon is when you want to set intention for any new projects and goals. And again, this is the absence of light in the side. So when I say set intention, it doesn't always mean you have to have an intention on the day of the new moon, because let's think about it. The sky is completely dark. How do you really set an intention fully when no light, no inspiration has emerged? But each moon phase takes about 1 to 3 days, on average about 2.5. So you want to use that 3-day run to start turning over ideas, right? And thinking about it, right? Brainstorm innovative ideas and strategies for growth, and utilize that time to get clearer so that you can begin to set intentions for new projects and goals in whatever area of your chart is being activated at the time. Then we move into the waxing crescent phase, which again, this is 3.5 to 7 days after the new moon. This is the period that leads us up to first quarter. So this is when you want to take the first steps towards your goal and initiate key tasks. It's also a good time to network and reach out to new contacts or collaborators. Once we get to day 7, we're a week into the lunar cycle, and we've hit one of the 8 major phases, which is the first quarter moon, where the moon looks like a D or a C, depending upon where you're at in the world. This is when we need to get clear or certain, really clear or certain about the things that we just said at the new moon. Probably at this point, some challenges may have come up, so we want to move with certainty. We want to think flexibly to try to overcome these challenges and make some decisions. And we want to take decisive action. We also want to focus on problem solving and adjusting any of the plans that we have for greater success, right? That is another 3-day period, which will then lead us into waxing gibbous. And during the waxing gibbous phase, we want to refine and perfect anything that we're working on in a project, focus on your details, and we want to gather feedback and make final preparations for any launches or any deliverables that you have, right? We're now at beyond 50% illumination. So any ideas that we came up with in the dark of the new moon, are really becoming clarified right now, because we're pushing towards 75% all the way up to 100. And so that's the break that happens before we get to the full moon, right? Important to note, after the full moon, it is natural for you to have an energy drop. The full moon, from going from full moon to new moon, is a perfect time to engage in relaxing and nourishing self-care that your body will easily receive and appreciate, because you're shifting from being an active masculine phase to feminine energy phase. Remember that humans are 70% water, and that the moon gives considerable influence over our moods and therefore the feel of our environment. In astrology, that is what the moon rules. Our emotional state, our the feeling in our bodies, and the feel of the environment. So we cannot discount that. As well as most of our menstrual cycles, even if you are beyond that point, are controlled by the moons, just like the oceans get high tide when we're in full moon, right? So again, thinking about this, use this dimming light of the full moon that we're just about to talk about as an invitation to slow down and recharge before the energy cycle starts up again. The key here is you've got 2 weeks on to get her done, and then 2 weeks on to rest, so that you can start the cycle all over again. This 2-week period is great for detoxing, idling, relaxing, and resorting. When you follow the moon, living a soft life is that much easier. Soft life does not have to look like a bunch of luxury items and a bunch of things, the way that they curated on TikTok. What it means is that there was a softness in the acquisition of the success or the endeavors that you feel so excited about. There was a softness to getting there, not a hardness, not struggle, not a whole bunch of difficulty, not a whole bunch of I did it, but I'm so tired I can barely enjoy what I did because I had to hustle, go. This is the nix of hustle culture, right? And in order to do that, we have to recognize these things. Now we're at the full moon. So at full moon, this is peak light, 100% illumination for about 2 or 3 days. Recognize that peak light, it means everything is visible, but if you know anything about 911 and hospital emergency rooms, they also get the peak of crazy during the full moon. Literally, lunatic and lunacy, it comes from the word from moon, lunar. So I'm a lunatic in a good way. I love the moon. But I want you to understand that because we're talking about the quality of the energy around us, right? So that means it's a high energy time. It's a great time to finally release or launch a project or a campaign for maximum visibility because it's reflecting fully the light of the sun. And then after the release happens, you let the passive receptive energy come back to you. It's also a great time to evaluate progress, celebrate achievements with your team, and start focusing on what you're going to let go. All right. We're working in reverse. The waning gibbous moon is back to 75% illumination, but we're dimming. So in these waning phases, right, waxing is growing, waning is leaving. We want to think about how we can share our knowledge and mentor others, teach and inspire. We want to analyze results and refine processes for efficiency, right? These are internal soft skills that we're working with. If I could have one major suggestion, it would be to focus on internal practices and soft skills during the second half of the moon cycle. 3 days later, we'll be at the last quarter phase, right? This is when everybody's like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Oh my God, I'm so tired. It is natural to be tired. The moon is at 50% illumination. We are 3 weeks into a lunar month. If you were pushing hard and you went through the intensity of the full moon, you probably do feel energetically drained. This is where I have to prompt and give women permission to say, okay, you're drained, but your effort is not necessarily you doing more efforting because your brain is telling you doesn't mean it's going to naturally translate into success. So how can we help you further your goals from the space that you're in, right? A lot of that looks like releasing what no longer serves you. Sometimes that's an idea. In your business, it could be a process or looking at streamlining operations. It is also a time to complete any unfinished task that came up from the start of the lunar month, right? Instead of trying to start something new, this is how we close things up. When we get to the waning crescent phase, we're looking at resting really, because by this point you're super, super tired. We want to rest and recharge and focus on self-care and reflection. This is what I focus on in my book, The Lunar Wisdom Formula for Beauty and Self-Care. This is also a really good time because you have more knowledge and it's better lived in to plan for the next cycle and strategize quietly and prepare for renewal. We are not taking a lot of external action. Now, this is an extra phase that I throw in because it is something that as an astrologer I pay attention to. It's called the dark of the moon. It's very similar in looks to the new moon because it's both when we have almost no illumination, but this is how the cycle ends. Important to note, lunar cycles begin and end in darkness, right? When we're in the new moon phase, we're beginning an ascent towards brighter light. At the dark of the moon, we are in the final 3 days of the lunar cycle. So it is time for us to disconnect from work and meditate on next steps, engage in deep reflection, and slow down, right? This is the once over to make sure you didn't leave anything. Another thing to focus on if you are deeper into astrology and really track lunar movement is what happens during the void of course moon. So a couple of times a month, the moon is traveling from one area of the sky to the other. So it's not necessarily in a sign. It's what we call void of course. And so it's kind of out of phase. So when that shows up, we want to avoid starting any new projects and focus on more routine tasks. And what we can do is use the time for rest, reflection, and low pressure activity. The goal of this is that if we engage in this kind of movement, we are in cyclical flow. And cyclical flow equals soft life, period. I mean, certainly having millions of dollars can get you there, but even women with millions of dollars can still be caught up in what is known as rushing women syndrome. And our current society really highlights that. For you to feel not only good in your head, aka think good about what you're doing, but also to be able to feel good, like below your neck, not feel drained, not feel listless, not feel stressed. You have to pattern yourself off of cyclical flow, no matter what the world or the environment is telling you. Now, I'm realizing it's 2:30. I have a little bit more. I'm going to power through this because I know we were going to cut at 2:30. If you're able to stay, keep going. If not, you can catch this in the replay because this is also additional information to layer in. So now we're just going to talk about the retrogrades because, hey, we're currently in one. We're currently in a Mercury retrograde. The thing that I want people to know is not to fear retrogrades. I consider retrogrades to be more the feminine energy expression of most of the planets. Outward expression is what they're normally doing. Retrograde periods are, I think, the divinity of what happens in the sky, in that everything has to have a flow. Everything has to have an out and an in, an on and an off, a forward and a backward. And so this is what that is. So when you think about retrogrades, you want to think about they are the opposite expression of what a planet normally means for in astrology. So Mercury retrograde is about watching your communication. Venus is more about figuring out how to work with your magnetism and your attraction factor, because it's more undercover. Mars causes you to be more internal and reflective instead of outwardly active. And you may have a lot of plans, but you may feel like they're not easily getting off of the ground during that period of time. Jupiter is about inner growth, inner development, finishing programs of study, not starting new things. And none of these are about starting new things. They're about coming back, circling the block, and taking care of what needs to be done at the time. Saturn retrogrades focus on examining the structure of our lives and your plans and your objectives and your job route, and how you're seen in the world. What do you like what has been your image and what needs to be up for review. Uranus is about inner revolution, because expressed, it's about outer revolution. Neptune is about, actually, Neptune in retrograde, I think, is a wonderful planet, because Neptune naturally expressed is already a little cloudy, hazy, and not so clear. So I think we get a little bit more clarity, and we're able to look internally, and places that may have seemed a little fuzzy or not so clear aren't that way. And then last but not least, Pluto is about diving into your inner shadow and your fears and kind of dredging up the unconscious to put it to bed. Like I said, we're currently in a Mercury retrograde that ends on August 28th. And we'll have a final one at the end of the year, November 26th through December 15th. In addition, we are actively right now, we have a Saturn retrograde, Neptune is in retrograde, and Pluto is in retrograde. Coming up at the start of next month is Uranus, that will be going through till 2025. And at the end of the year, we will have a Mars retrograde. Mars and Venus alternate. Usually only one of these is in retrograde in a year. Last year, it was Venus retrograde in Leo. This year, it's going to be Mars retrograde. Not in Gemini. I'm currently forgetting the sign. But nonetheless, this information is also in your workbook, and it gives you some insight, particularly about what to avoid, what to do. This is a graph that just helps you take a look at what portion of the year is going to be focused on that way. And so you want to add that as an additional layer if you feel so inclined to address the quality of time and how you plan what you do in order to live softer. Each one of these things is a front-loaded activity that, if you do it, will create greater softness and greater ease in what you're doing as you move forward. And so, lastly, we're going to be talking about the remaining major aspects of 2024. Now, the major aspects that I want you guys to, just be noting at the time, we have August 19th, Jupiter in Gemini squaring Saturn in Pisces. So writing down these dates, right? August 19th, September 1st, November 19th, and December 24th. There are a bunch of other aspects in between, but these are the major months. Note that we have one coming up at the end of next week, or the middle of next week, and it's going to happen twice. This aspect looks like the growth and expansion that we've experienced in whatever Gemini ruled area of our chart is going to get challenged, and we're going to have to look at some of our beliefs, and we're going to have to kind of dig in and make them be more practical. Jupiter wants to grow. Saturn's like, yeah, but you need a particular infrastructure. And well, what about this? And no, you can't do this. And so not no, no, no. It wants to make things real. It wants to make things sturdy, and it wants to make things last. So it's going to be asking you to take a look at where you were at and what you got inspired around May 25th when Jupiter moved in to Gemini, and what you've been cooking up thus far. Whatever plans you've been coming up with, this is going to be the first time you're going to have to, they're going to say, hey, I need you to take a look at this. And some parts are practical and some parts are not. You're going to do that edit. And then it's going to ask you to do that same thing at the end of the year. This is good because these are regular reviews, and the astrology is always happening for us, not to us. The other two that are in the middle are really important because they are literally once in a lifetime aspects. Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008, 16 years. It's going to retrograde back into Capricorn on September 1st for the last time in our lifetime. Again, Pluto takes 248 years to cycle the entire zodiac. So not in our lifetime, not in our children's lifetime, not pretty much in anybody else that we know. Will this particular aspect ever happen again? Equally, having Pluto move back into Aquarius, which it did on January 20th when it first entered into the sign, and then November 19th. This aspect where it will remain once it moves back, this is the final retrograde action. Once it re-enters Aquarius, it will be there for the next 20 years. And again, we will not revisit this energy or those degrees ever again in our lifetime. This is about where we're transforming. This is the end of the transformation of patriarchal rule, of the government, of certain kinds of structures, difficulty, and a move into more of community, more technology, all of those kinds of things. So you want to look at where Capricorn and Aquarius are in your chart and take a look at the house that they rule to see how these themes overlap and what that means specifically for your chart, because it means something different for everybody. Also, just as a note, we have eclipses. The eclipses for 2024, right? We have 2 more eclipses that are happening. We have a partial lunar eclipse happening September 17th, which is going to start a new family of Pisces and Virgo, and this will be the only one in Pisces this year. But when we move into 2025, the lunar nodes will be shifting, so we'll have a different moon feel. And the annular solar eclipse on October 2nd. Eclipses are big deals. They're full moons and new moons on steroids. So you're going to put an asterisk by these. And I will say this: what happens at an eclipse is not negotiable. If something ends, it ends. If something starts, it's starting. You can negotiate with everything else that's happening in the other aspects of your chart. You are not and lunar eclipses are what usually highlight that something is ending, because those happen on full moons. Solar eclipses happen on new moons. So lunar eclipses are great endings. Solar eclipses are new beginnings. Circle these dates in your chart as pivotal periods where really new things are going to show up. And then you want to look at what house in your chart, back in that diagram that I gave with all of the house themes, to understand the quality of what will be starting new for you. And so that's the end of it. That really gives us this formula, this stellar year blueprint that undergirds what I'm always talking about in the stellar planning process, right? That first, you want to take a look at the major aspects of the year, make note of that. You want to look at eclipse seasons and put extra asterisks on them because you have a spring and a fall one. And again, those are non-negotiable events. Then you want to go back in and layer and look at the retrogrades, where they're happening, and have some awareness of those laid down in your calendar. Then to work from the day-to-day pieces, we then move into, okay, what's the current lunar cycle? What's the new moon of this month? What's the full moon of this month? What area is that? Does that mean I'm going to be focused on for the month? And what are those dates so that I can accurately plan my 2-week on period and my 2-week off period? And then last but not least, to monitor everything that's happening through that and keep that appropriate energetic flow, you want to think about what day is it today? Is it a Sunday? Is what I have planned for today, is it in alignment with the day? If you have a day that feels crappy or not the way that you wanted it to, go back and look at your schedule or your diary or whatever you have. For me, I go back and look at my iCal, like, okay, what did I set up to do for today? And what was the actual energy of the planetary day? Oh, I'm gonna have to switch that because this didn't feel that great. So note to self. Step number 6 is the bonus step, right? Because you can do all of these things without knowing your birth chart. But when you do, this information becomes so specific and so useful. It's absolutely game changing. You have a personal map for the quality of time, the way you will experience it, the way it will hit your chart. And you and I do not have the same chart, which means this is truly personalized advice. That's why I call it a personalized life instruction manual. It's truly personalized, right? These are the core aspects of stellar planning. Track the sun and the retrogrades. Apply the lunar wisdom formula and check the yearly transits and rare events. If you do this along with going through your Microsoft Outlook and accepting events and things of this nature, you're fully armed with what you need to know about the quality of time and how things, work and move for you. So I want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you for giving me your time and your energy. If you have any questions, go ahead and just pop the information into the chat, and I'm gonna drop, for some reason, I don't know, I just saw now because I'm manning the chat that you guys didn't see the link before, so I just put it back there. But I also wanted to let you know, if you want to work with me further, there's low touch, medium touch, high touch ways. The first up is you can get one of my computerized astrology reports, and that is the ones that I recommend that will align you with this are the 12-month forecaster and the life planner. Both of these give you a 12-month forecast from wherever you're at. And additionally, they come with calendars that list all of the different aspects related to you and your particular birth time. They're delivered on screen and they're emailed to you, and they're something that you can go back into again and again and again. They ask you to speak astrology at some level, but not at the highest level. They're great resources to utilize to go back and forth in with your chart. The second resource is taking a look at the Stellar Planner for 2024, which includes the Stellar Year Blueprint. So all of the stuff that I just covered about how to work with time, in addition to giving you information about the retrogrades and meteors and all kinds of other things. It also is full of planning tools, such as a budget worksheet. There are a million worksheets. It's also hyperlinked, so you can click on any of the tabs and get back to where you need to, and you can make additional sheets for whatever digital device that you have. This is to note, this is a digital planner, not a physical one. You could print it out, but it's designed to be used digitally. And so this has a lot of the work done for you and will allow you to integrate stellar planning and the stellar year blueprint all in one place. And then last but not least, I am launching a masterclass called the Feminine Flow Masterclass, which is a woman's guide to stress-free success and soft living, all based on information that we talked about here, going a lot deeper. It's going to be at minimum a 90-minute class broken up into different modules. And it's really going to help you be able to master the 8 major moon phases and cycles, help you at a very detailed level align your business tasks with the lunar phases to optimize your schedule. I'm also going to be providing intuitive planning strategies that can help you in business and in life, and helping you think about how you integrate rest, recuperation, and relaxation into your workday, which creates a routine that will help you be a lot more balanced. And this is a secret for avoiding burnout. The pre-enrollment period is opening as of today. Class goes live on September the 3rd. And if you choose to pre-enroll right now, you will get $30 off. The cost of the master class is $77. And so right now, if you do pre-purchase before the 3rd, you will get $30 off immediately, and the opportunity to submit questions to me regarding anything that you need to know about moon cycles and soft living, so that I can answer those in a Q&A session. And finally, if you really want to know all of this, but you don't want to do the work in a DIY way, I have 3 options for readings. I have which all have $50 off if you use the code Midyear and purchase before 8/31. So I have just a stellar year blueprint option where I will do your chart and we'll look at all of your information over the course of the entire year. And for you, it will be mid-year right now. We'll be probably looking from August or September to next September. It's about an hour-long reading. Option number 2 is the extended reading, which is 75 minutes. And it allows us to go in depth a little bit more and focus on all of these things. And then option number 3 is that extended piece with a tarot or oracle card reading, so that we can just cover all of the bases. And I'll do a yearly tarot spread to give you key ideas and themes for each month, be that through 2024, 2025. As well as you will leave with a report and a document and a recorded reading that does all of this work for you, so that you can just plug and play. So thank you all for being here with me today. I am going to close everything out. I so appreciate everyone's time. I'm just a few minutes over, but I had so much information that I wanted to pack in and give to everyone. And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube or in replay. Note that any of these offers that I just talked about are good through the reading options are good through 8/31/24, and the masterclass discount lasts until the evening of 9/2. After that, the class will go live and the cost will be the official $77. But I am sending each one of you wise ones so much light and love. And remember, like I always say, life and business do come with an instruction manual. It is written in the stars. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And blessed be. I'm going to stop recording now.